Hey, welcome back. Our last topic about birds this week will be beaks. This lesson will help you complete the seesaw assignment entitled Beak Adaptations Self-Portrait. A bird's beak is basically the nose and mouth of the animal. It opens and closes, just like our mouth does, but they do not have any teeth to chew their food with. They are shaped in a special way. If you notice, birds' beaks come in all different shapes and designs. The beaks are adapted and shaped to eat a particular food. Nectar, fish, seeds, live mammals, worms, and insects are some of the foods that birds eat. When an animal has a specially designed body part that helps it survive, scientists call this an adaptation. One famous scientist that noticed that birds have different shaped beaks is Charles Darwin. He looked at lots of different small birds called finches and discovered that the different size and shape of their beaks helped them eat different types of food, so they did not all have to fight for the same food source. One of my favorite ways to teach about adaptations is by doing the bird beak challenge. Maybe you could try to eat like a bird with me at home if you want. I have gathered some different tools. These tools represent the bird's beaks. I have gathered a staple remover, tweezers, slotted spoon, tongs, pliers, and a straw. Next, I gathered some materials that would be what the bird is eating, like toy mice, nuts or seeds, water in a narrow cup, which is the nectar, rice, which is little insects, toy fish, marbles, which is like plants that'll be in the tub of water. Let's get started with our first test. I have 3 different tools that we can think of as bird beaks. I have a long, thin tube used for drinking liquids, a thin pair of tweezers for picking small things up, and a pair of chunky pliers. My food source is going to be nuts, like peanuts and pecans. Birds that eat nuts often have to have a strong beak for breaking seeds open to get the nuts inside the shell. Tweezers pick up the seed, but I'm not able to actually break it. If it was covered with a shell, I wouldn't be able to eat the peanut. Pliers are very strong and triangular, just like birds' beaks that eat seeds. With the pliers, I can pick up the seed and I can even break it. If it was covered in a shell, I'd be able to still eat the nut inside. The last beak I tried was a straw. Straws are good for moving liquids, but they're not very good for picking up solid objects, like peanuts. So I learned that the best tool for a seed-eating bird is the pliers. The pliers are triangular and strong and able to crack seeds. My next food source was rice. I wanted the rice to be small insects. I had some tongs, tweezers, and a slotted spoon. The tongs were able to pick up some of the insects, but they were kind of big and a little clumsy. With the tweezers, I was able to quickly pick up insects one by one. I felt like the tweezers were a really good beak for picking up small, tiny insects on a leaf. The slotted spoon was not a good beak. A slotted spoon might work for something in the water. It was not good for picking up insects. So for birds that eat insects, I chose the tweezers. They were long, strong, and precise enough to pick up insects one at a time. I put the marbles in my tub of water. They were supposed to be plants that grow in the water, such as duckweed or algae. When I used the straw beak, it moved water around, but I wasn't trying to eat the water. I was trying to eat the marbles, and I couldn't pick them up. The tweezers were also useless. I could not pick up any of the marbles with that long, thin beak. The slotted spoon, however, collected the marbles really well. This beak is like a straining beak. It allows the water to come through, but it holds the food source inside its beak. This is a kind of beak that a flamingo has. So the slotted spoon worked to collect plants that were growing in the water. Nectar is the sweet liquid that flowers make to attract insects and birds. I put some liquid inside a tube and tried to get the liquid out with my tweezers. They did not work. I also tried my staple remover. It also did not lift any liquid out of that flower. The tube worked great. It was thin enough and long enough to fit right down inside the flower, and I was able to cover my thumb up on the bottom of the straw to lift the water up and out, just as if a bird were drinking that nectar. Of course, a hummingbird has this probing beak. My next food source was fish in the water. I tried the pliers, and they worked. I did catch a fish, but I thought about how my beak was all the way in the water, and if I was a small bird, I might have to dive into the water to catch that fish. I'm not sure it was the best choice. The tongs were very long. I thought if I were a bird, I'd be able to stand up and grab a fish out with my long beak, and I wouldn't have to go in the water. The long, sturdy tongs worked just like the flat beak of the duck, who is pulling out fish from the water. The last food source I tried were mice. Of course, the straw would not work to catch a mouse. The tongs actually worked okay, but I'd have to eat that mouse whole because I wasn't able to tear it up. But the staple remover, look at how sharp and strong that beak would be. I thought if I had a staple remover mouth, I would be able to tear up that mouse and swallow it in pieces. The sharp and curved beak belongs to raptors, like eagles, hawks, and owls. Now that you learned a little bit about beaks, I'd like you to complete the Beak Adaptation Self-Portrait and post it on Seesaw. Be creative in what kind of beak you put on your face, but then show me the food source. Your beak should be just the right tool to eat that kind of food that you show me. I can't wait to see it.